When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Can I have a show of hands for people who have heard that saying before? Thank God, because otherwise I might as well go home right now. So today I'm going to talk about why I believe that saying is flawed. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm 8 years old and I've been made to sit in a room by myself for what feels like forever. My hand is hurting where I've had to write lines over and over and over again. I must do what my father says. I must do what my father says. I must do what my father says. The only thing is, the man that has made me write these lines isn't my father. But I've been made to call him Dad when I really, really didn't want to. But I continue writing because I'm terrified of what might happen if he returns to the room. Is he going to scream in my face again? All the cruel things that I've become almost numb to. You're fat, you're worthless, you're useless. You're never going to amount to anything. I'm going to show you what real pain feels like. My head and my ear is still piercing, where from the night before he grabbed me from my top bunk bed by my hair, threw me to the ground and hit me so hard around my head, he completely burst my eardrum. And I could not only not hear out of my left ear, but it was to become so badly infected where I wasn't taken to the doctors because I was so neglected, probably for fear that my abuser would be questioned. My hair is clinging to my face where he'd grabbed a bucket of human piss and poured it over both me and my mother as we sat whimpering the floor for mercy. Suddenly he's coming back to the room and I can hear his footsteps down the hallway and my heart starts beating in my chest because I realise, oh my God, I spelt says wrong. And he storms into the room up to me, he grabs the paper and he looks over them and he too realises I spelt says wrong. And as he does, he rips up all of my hard work and he throws it in my face. He says, "Is that how you spell says, you stupid effing idiot? Start it over again, otherwise I'll show you what real punishment looks like." And he storms out the room. And then, actually, in that moment, I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that he may not show me what the other punishment looks like. You see, the other punishment is far more sinister for an 8-year-old girl to experience, where her body is used for the sexual pleasure of a grown man. Now, this is what physical and sexual abuse feels like to an 8-year-old girl, and I was to endure this kind of maltreatment for many years to come. And because I had believed what my abuser told me that I was going to become, I had manifested that into my life. And so fast forward to me being 30 years old, and I find myself in a very similar predicament. I'm lying on a cold floor, I'm covered in vomit, and once again, my whole body is covered in human piss. But I realised this time it wasn't somebody else that did this to me. I'd done this to myself. I'd become so badly addicted to substances, and I had a severe eating disorder, that I'd found myself in the same position that I had when I was 8 years old. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because these were essentially my lemons that I was cultivating in my life. But because I had no guidance and no love and no one to really show me what to do with my lemons, I couldn't make them into lemonade. And I hear time and time again where people have had experiences in their life which are essentially their lemons, but they ask me, what am I going to do with these? Because I don't know how. I don't know how to make this into lemonade. And I realised that with myself. So what I could then do is I actually crafted my own recipe for lemonade. So today I'm going to share with you how I got from being a dying drug addict and alcoholic, to where I am today. So I'm going to talk about the entirety of my being because I believe that we have to think about that when we are healing from anything in our lives. And what I mean by that is a mind, body, soul. And first of all, I had to really think about my mental health because it had been impacted so badly by what happened to me. And I had to get help. And that was in the form of various different therapies, but people who had also trod the path before me who could help me get through to my first stage of my healing. And during a particularly traumatic episode with a therapist, she said to me, "You know what, Lucy, we are all imperfect. We are perfectly imperfect." And that is something that really stuck in my mind because I'd been told I was this and that, I was useless and all these different things. But actually, when I realised I was just perfectly imperfect, that really made me understand that I was worth more than what I'd been told I was going to become. And that helped me to understand that I didn't have to feel shame anymore. And what I mean by shame is that, I could talk about shame forever because some of you may have heard of Brené Brown. She talks about shame. But there's two types of shame I want to mention here. The first type of shame is the sexual shame that was given to me. I absorbed that shame and believed that it was mine. And so this was my reality and this is what I created. So I had to work through understanding what was mine and what was carried. And the second part of it is that, again, Brené Brown talks about this. We question ourselves, that we question whether we are good enough. And that's what I always did. I questioned whether I was good enough. And then the other part is when we start to gain some positivity or some perspective on our lives, we then question how good do we think we are? For example, why do we think we are good? Or who do you think you are? But when I was able to realise all of this stuff, I could delve deeper. And I started to delve into my emotions and really start to empty out some of the toxic emotions that I'd stored as a result of things that I'd experienced that wasn't my fault. So part of my recovery was looking at my body, but what I needed to be forgiving. But what I mean by forgiveness is having self-forgiveness first, because I couldn't understand what forgiveness meant until I could forgive myself for some of the things that I'd believed and some of the things that I'd done. And then I could move on to forgiving other people who had hurt me. But I could only do that when I was ready. Now, the reason I put dance is not necessarily just dance. Yeah, great. We can dance about and be silly and allow our inner child to come out. But moving my body, but also connecting with my body, because being a sexual abuse victim, we disconnect from our bodies. So it really gave me the opportunity to reconnect with my body and start to appreciate the body that I was in, because I demonized it for so many years. And I wanted to be thinner. I wanted to be this. I wanted to be that. But you know what? I realised, and someone once said to me one day, you are not going to lay on your deathbed and think, my God, I'm so glad I was thin. I'm going to think, I'm so glad my body has brought me to this moment and I've been healthy, and I'm grateful for that, but hopefully it won't be for a very long time. So being a victim of sexual abuse, I was very, very out of control. And by taking these steps, I started to take back my control. And that was such a freeing process for me, because I'd been out of control every area of my life. But when I started to take that back, it was a massive game changer. So the soul part, what I started to do was soul searching. And what I mean by that was trying to understand what I wanted out of life, not what somebody else had told me that I was going to become. What did I want? Who did I want to be? Who did I want to become? And I did that through connecting with my inner world, and that's actually me meditating on the screen. I couldn't recommend meditation anymore because that was a huge part of me healing from what happened to me. And next I want to move on to openness. And when I was able to start connecting with my inner world, I've become more open to the possibilities of so many things. And what I mean by that is manifesting into my life what I deserved. I'll tell you a very quick story. When I came into recovery, I was told by the rehab, don't get into a relationship for a year. Well, that was bad news, because that's all I wanted to do. So I did my own research, and yeah, they were right. I didn't do very well at that. So I decided to wait. And one of my friends said to me, you know what, when you're open to the idea, you should write a list of the person that you want to meet, all the qualities that you want in that person. And every evening before you go to bed, read it out into the universe and believe that that person is going to come into your life. So I was like, well, that sounds a bit like airy-fairy shit, but I'll give it a go. So I tried it for a couple of months, and you know what? I believed that that man was going to come into my life. And so I went on a dating app, one of these mindless ones you swipe next. And I got very bored with it very quickly, as most of us probably do. But before I did, I matched with a man. And I looked at the picture and I thought, my God, I feel like I know you. I really felt like I'd met this man before, somewhere. So before I deleted it, I sent him a message and I said, look, this is my number. If you want to stay in touch, let's talk and maybe we can go on a date. And so the next day he sent me a message and he said, yeah, let's get together. Let's go out for a date. Fast forward 6 years and I'm now married to this man. I have 2 beautiful children and I have the life that I've always wanted. I'm finally loved by a man in my life that I never experienced when I was growing up. Going back to that list that I made, he matched every single quality on that list. And one of them was that he would have the biggest, warmest smile. My husband is in the audience today. I want you to stand up and smile at the audience. I realise I'm running out of time, so I've got to pull myself together. So when I was able to really feel the power that I had to manifest what I wanted into my life, I realised I was totally and utterly unbreakable. Everything I had experienced up to that time hadn't broken me. I was still here. Even though there were times when I tried to commit suicide, I was still here. So it really gave me so much courage and so much confidence to go and try anything in my life, because I realised that even if I failed, I was still going to get something from it, because I'd been the lowest of the low in my life and I'd experienced so much pain and so much rejection. So now I go for anything, I try anything. And you know what? If those things hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be stood on this red dot today. So in fact, I actually have to thank my abuser for what he did to me. Now, the final part is letting go. And what I mean by letting go is allowing those experiences to have shaped me for who I am and to not carry them around with me in my imaginary backpack and take that into relationships or take that into my career or take that into my dynamics with my children. You know, all of this work that I've done on myself is because I want to pass that on and I want to give that to other people. So not just my children, the love I have for my husband, the love I have for my career and all of my friends, and ultimately for myself. So I want to finish on this. Had I not asked for help at the beginning of my journey, I wouldn't have been able to allow people to come into my life to help me. So what I now want to finish off this recipe with is helping others. We need to normalize helping others and be okay about that. So what I did to help others is that I went to university. And this is from someone who had not even completed her GCSEs. And I studied a master's degree in psychology. And actually, you know what? I failed my first attempt at a dissertation. But I got myself back up again, and I wrote it again. And I did it, and I passed. And now I work with people to help them out of the darkness, to help them with their grief, to walk with them through their pain. And so what I want you to do now is a little bit of audience participation. I want you to all stand up out of your chairs. And if you can't, then please just consider the answer to this question. So I want to ask you that if you have nothing in your life that you need to ask for help with, to sit down. Thank God, not one person sat down. This proves my point. We all need to ask for help for something. Now, you've all got delegate bags that you were given today. When you have a chance, I want you to reach into that bag. And in that bag, there is a recipe card. And on that recipe card, there is a recipe for lemonade. So go and make your lemonade. But also on that recipe card are the steps that I went through today. I want you to look over those steps, and I want you to go and ask for help. Finally go and ask for help for that problem that you've been avoiding for so many years because you don't feel that you can deal with that pain. Take it from someone who has been there and that has been through the darkest times, that's got through to the other side. And when you're ready and you feel that you've done enough of those steps on that card, I want you to take the recipe card and pass it on to someone else so that they can start their journey in healing as well. So if you've been given lemons in life, take your recipe card and go and make lemonade. Thank you.